Mr. Gawne, you're going back to Tynwald for this money, for the pier. Is this finally going to be the end of it? You're going to get £1.8 million just to mothball it?
Well, certainly that is the proposal. We are going back to Tynwald. Tynwald asked the department back in January of 2010 to devise a scheme which basically stabilised the pier and protected the existing structures, and that's effectively what we're going back for. 16 years ago, possibly more, Tynwald took a decision to effectively mothball the pier as a short-term measure. Now, 16 years on, we are certainly a long time outside of any short-term measures. It is time we actually did something. The pier is in some considerable degree of disrepair. We have a statutory duty under the protected buildings list or protected structures list to actually look after this structure, and I hope that Tynwald will be supportive.
Times are tight. This is a lot of money. That could be money spent on other things. Do you think there's going to be the will from your colleagues to give this money to this project, which effectively doesn't do much with it, it just mothballs it?
Well, I think it does do quite a lot for the pier. First of all, it makes it safe, which is a crucial aspect as far as my department's concerned, because obviously we are responsible if something falls on someone's head, if something drops into the sea and then floats off and damages vessels. We are responsible, so we need to get that sorted. But also, this is a historical structure. It's, I think, the 6th largest pier that's been built in the British Isles. It is an iconic structure in Ramsey. We had a fantastic response to our public opinion survey, at which something, a hugely statistically relevant number of people actually responded and said they wanted the pier looked after and protected. Now, what we are doing is the bare minimum that is required to make sure that the pier is safe and that make sure that it is secured in as much as it's not going to deteriorate any further. Now, that's a reasonable step to take in economically difficult times. What wouldn't be reasonable in an economically difficult time would be to spend the 10 million plus that's required to fully refurbish the pier. I think that's an entirely unreasonable request at this current financial time, but actually doing the basic minimum that's required to stabilise the pier and make sure that it's safe, I think is entirely reasonable.
You take my point, this money means nothing in the sense that no one's going to walk on it, the public aren't going to get access to it, it just remains something that future generations are still going to have to sort out.
It does, though, ensure that the pier is capable of being refurbished. It also makes clear that people will be able to sail around the pier and will be able to walk underneath the pier. If we don't do the work, there's a severe risk that we would have to put up barriers and Harris fencing and flashing lights and tapes and everything to say you can't go underneath the pier. I don't think anyone in Ramsey wants to see that happen. But clearly, Tynwald has an opportunity to make a proper decision here. There are politicians who are looking towards the election, and I hope that they don't decide that, well, let's just put the decision off until after the election. And I hope that if politicians do decide to do that, their electorate will be looking at those politicians and talking to them and asking them, why did you put off this difficult decision? If the difficult decision has to be taken, it needs to be taken at the appropriate time, not put off till after the election when everyone's safe and they can just crack on again as if the electorate doesn't matter. It is important to sort of pin your colours to the mast, actually make it clear, I actually stand in favour or I'm against the refurbishment of the pier.
Finally, though, a member of your own department, Mr. Gawne, is against it.
Well, he has always been against it, and I respect his position. I don't agree with his position. I support the heritage of the Isle of Man, and I believe that when 70-odd% of the population are supportive of something, we should do our best to try and follow the wishes of the public. Graham has his view, I have my view. Graham came into the department with that view, and because he came into the department with that view, I'm entirely comfortable with him expressing that view, and I think that's a reasonable stance for me to take. My view is that we've delayed, dilly-dallied, put off this decision for quite long enough now. We need to actually support the funding. This is the first substantial amount of funding that has been suggested for the pier. Let's actually get on with it, make the decision.